All right, let's dive into something that's, frankly, a hidden trap in retirement planning. It's called the sequence of returns risk. And it's this weird, counterintuitive idea that explains how you can have a fantastic average return on your investments and still go broke. Sounds crazy, right? Let's break it down. I know. This probably sounds completely backward. Because, we're always told to just focus on that average annual return, right? That's the big number. But get this. What if you had two people and they both had the exact same average return over, say, 30 years? You'd think they'd end up in the same place, wouldn't you? But no, one could be totally set for life while the other runs out of cash. So how on earth is that possible? Well, it all comes down to one little thing: timing.
To really get our heads around this, let's step away from the spreadsheets and the financial jargon for a minute. Let's tell a story instead. Imagine two mountain climbers. They're at the same mountain and they've got the exact same goal. Make it to the top and, enjoy that incredible view.
So meet our climbers. First up, we've got climber A. Let's call them the grinder. This is someone in their 20s, maybe 30s, just starting out, full of energy and really focused on that long grind to the top. This is what we call the accumulation phase. Then we have climber B, the veteran. This person's been at it for decades, their pack is full, they're so close to the peak, that summit of financial freedom, and they're just about ready to stop climbing and finally start using all the supplies they've gathered.
Okay, now this part is super important. We have to remember both of these climbers are equally skilled, they're on the same mountain, and the long-term weather forecast, it predicts the exact same average weather for both of their journeys. So on paper, everything's equal. Their results should be identical, but they're not going to be. And why is that? Well, because any long journey isn't just about the average. It's about the specific challenges you hit along the way. It's about the storms. And crucially, it's about when those storms decide to show up. So for climber A, our grinder, a really nasty storm hits right at the beginning of the climb. It's rough. The wind is howling, their progress gets hammered. It's definitely scary. But, and this is the key, they're still way down at the bottom of the mountain. They've got decades of climbing left to recover. In fact, think about it. The storm actually makes all the climbing gear, the assets, go on sale. It's a chance to buy more for less.
Okay, now let's switch to climber B, the veteran. The exact same storm, same strength, same everything hits them. But the timing is just awful. It hits right as they're planting their flag on the summit. They're done with the hard part, the climbing. They're literally about to open their pack and start living off their supplies. For them, this isn't just a little setback. This is a potential catastrophe. So that's the big question, isn't it? We've got the same storm, the same mountain, the same average weather. Why is one climber just fine in the long run, while the other is in serious, serious danger? What's the difference? All right, let's put some real numbers to this story. Look at what happens to climber A. Yeah, the market takes a big hit, but they're still putting money in, so they're buying when everything is cheap. Now look over at climber B. That huge 30% drop happens the exact moment they start taking money out. They have to sell their assets, their supplies, to live, but they're selling in the middle of the storm at bargain basement prices. And that's the killer combo, a down market plus withdrawals. It's a devastating spiral because you have to sell way more of your stuff just to get the cash you need, and that permanently wrecks your portfolio. And that right there, that brings us to the core idea. The huge, critical difference between the two main phases of your financial life, accumulation versus distribution. So now we can give our storm its official name. What we've been talking about is called sequence of returns risk, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The danger that a bad sequence of returns, like a huge market drop right when you retire, can do permanent damage to your nest egg. And this can happen even if your average return over the long haul looks perfectly fine. So let's really hammer this point home. Once you stop working and start living off your investments, that average return number, it just doesn't matter as much. What matters way more is the order in which those returns happen. A big loss in year 1 or 2 of retirement, that can be a knockout punch that you just can't recover from. And this contrast really is everything. Let's go back to the climb. When you're in the accumulation phase, climbing up, a market crash is basically a big sale. Awesome. You get to buy more assets for cheap. But when you're in the distribution phase, at the summit and living off your supplies, that same market crash is a full-blown crisis. You're now forced to sell your stuff at a huge discount just to pay the bills. And those losses, they're permanent. Okay,
So that's the problem. And yeah, it's a pretty scary one. But listen, the whole point here isn't to freak you out, it's to get you prepared. So now, let's talk about how you can build a financial shelter to protect yourself from that summit storm.
And this really gets to the heart of what we call a stewardship mindset. Look, we can't control the weather, right? We have no idea when the next market downturn is going to hit. But what we can control is how we prepare for it. It's not about being afraid of the storm. It's about being smart and building a sturdy shelter for the resources you've spent your whole life gathering.
So what does the shelter actually look like? Well, here's a simple 3-step plan. Step 1, just know where you are on the mountain. Are you a grinder, still accumulating? Or are you a veteran, getting ready to distribute? Your entire strategy changes depending on the answer. Step 2, diversify your buckets. And I don't just mean a mix of stocks and bonds. I mean having different bags of supplies. Maybe you have a bucket of cash that can cover your living expenses for a year or two. That way, if a storm hits, you don't have to sell your other assets at a loss. And number 3, make a storm plan before it starts raining. Decide ahead of time how you're going to handle a big market drop right around retirement. What's your first move?
And that really leaves us with one final question for you. Understanding this stuff is great. It's the first step. But taking action is what really counts. So think about it. What is the very first step you can take today to check the weatherproofing on your own financial climb? Trust me, your future self will be incredibly glad you did.